advice for somebody who is, trying to transition from in-home to telesales? And, I'll just say this, I still love the in-home. I still will tell people if they can go to the in-home, it's still a great way to learn, but telesales is not something to be afraid of. And it's something that can be learned. But if you're going to learn it, you have to get so uncomfortable, find a way to get around people that are doing it. If you're going to do it, why suffer in silence trying to figure it out? Why not just avoid every single mistake and learn from mentors along the way and speed up your learning curve? All right, everybody, welcome to the Family First Life America agency call. I couldn't be more excited to be here with my special guests. I've got Mr. Melvin Tejada. I've got Joseph Whipple and Dustin Bouchard. All are helping 40 families a month via telesales. Today, it's going to be a telesales clinic. We're currently here in Greenville, South Carolina, hosting our first ever telesales lock-in. We have 55 people here throughout the office in the other rooms that are, working on their one-call closes, working on their same-day mortgage appointments, and they understand the value of learning how to work from anywhere. And that's what we're excited to be able to talk about here today. So let's just kind of go around real quick. I want to get everybody's background. We'll start with Mel. Mel, what were you doing before Family First Life? How did you find out about us? And talk to us just a little bit about that transition from going from the in-home to going virtual.
Right. Thank you, Jamie. I appreciate the fact that you always give the hardest work to all your individuals and your agents. But I was a pool salesman. I used to sell luxurious above ground pools. And then believe it or not, they maintain themselves. Not trying to sell you on it, but I did that between basically February 2021 up until the end of the pool season back in last year. So up until July 31st. And then why did I start looking for opportunities? Well, there's a pool season. So I can't sell pools for the rest of the year.
Yep.
So I just asked the universe, hey, let me find an opportunity that I can add value to the community. And then I can build a team. And at the same time that I enjoy doing the work and I get paid. So basically I went on YouTube and all of a sudden I see a video from my upline, Todd House Burger. It says, hey, I helped 20 families in 1 week. And I was like, all in, the rest is history and I'm here.
I love it, man. I love it. Dustin, what were you doing before Family First Life and how'd you hear about us?
Yeah, thanks for having me on here, Jamie. It's an honor, pleasure to be around you guys. I was a bartender before I started doing this for pretty much most of my life. I have done some other sales here and there, but nothing that is as rewarding as this is, and nothing that, you actually feel like, you're really accomplishing something at the end of the day by protecting these families. So, yeah, I was just a bartender and I figured, that's pretty much a dead end. I mean, where is that going to end up going? This, I saw an opportunity to build a business, to build a career, and to build, a solid foundation. So thanks for having me, Jamie.
Yeah, absolutely. And Joseph, what were you doing, man?
Yes, sir. I was a welder for about 5 years before I joined this, and I found it on TikTok actually. And Mike gave me a call, had to triple dial me, and the rest is history.
I love it. So needless to say, whether you had a sales background, no sales background. So, I mean, Mel sold pools, Joseph did welding, and Dustin was a bartender. None of you guys had sold any insurance or anything over the phone before.
No.
Yeah. So obviously you came here and, we talk about how this is the best sales gig on the planet. We truly do believe that. And for the longest time, all that we did was sell in person. We were belly to belly. That's what we did as a company. And then telesales was introduced about a year ago. And, I'm the person who, I was one of the most resistant people to telesales, to allowing new agents to do telesales. I'd say things like, well, hey, selling in person is easier. And part of me still sometimes believes that. But then at the same time, I thought, wow, why am I even thinking that in the first place? Well, I've ran 2,000 appointments in the home. No wonder I think that selling in home is easier, because that's what I've done. And that's what thousands of people before me have done. But then I realized that at the time when I developed that belief, nobody had run 1,000 appointments over the phone yet. There was nobody that had that same level of belief and confidence doing telesales that I had in the home, and that so many other people had in the home too. So I kind of had that light bulb moment when I realized, and I saw agents all around the country doing these virtual telesale lock-ins. And I said, wow, the reason why in-home was so effective for a new agent was because I was doing it in person. It's easier to learn in person. Well, telesales, when I'm selling from my spare bedroom at my house, it can be, pretty tough to learn when you're not around other people, especially when there's rejection and people hanging up on you. But when you get around people and you learn to sell over the phone in person around other people selling over the phone, we do the live Zoom rooms, we do all those things, but guess what? You don't have to unmute. And there's times when multiple people can't be dialing unmuted at the same time. Whereas when I'm in an office, or I'm at an Airbnb and we've got 50 people or 30 people or even 20 people at a house or in an office, I can just peek over Mel's shoulder and hear what he's saying. I can be dialing across the office and Mel can look at me and say, hey, Jamie, don't say that. And I think it's just really powerful to be able to learn where you can take what I believe could potentially be 6 months to a year of trying to figure it out on your own. And you could have some confidence built and boosted into you in 3 days, just by getting around other people that are doing it. What I love about this event is there's so many sales conferences that we've done. And it's just, we'll stand up and talk at you for 8 hours. Maybe you get motivated. Maybe you don't get motivated. Maybe you go home and do some work. Maybe you don't. But when you come to something like this, there's some short trainings, but most of it is we're working and we're working around each other and we're ringing the bell when we get a sale and we're doing leaderboards and we're eating meals and breaking bread together and we're getting back to work and we're getting feedback and we're role playing. There's so many things that you just don't get a chance to do when you come to a sales conference, take notes and leave, or when you're just on live dials and not everybody can be unmuted, quick side conversations, but I can actually, go into an office with, Dustin and say, hey, dude, walk me through your in-home real quick. Walk me through your telesales presentation. Walk me through exactly what you say when somebody says, think about it. Hey, will you listen to me dial for 5 minutes? It's a very powerful thing to do. So real quick, I guess, I had these guys come up this morning and they kicked us off for the event. So we did a 7 a.m. morning mindset training. We brought breakfast in for everybody. And then I had these guys kick us off with our one call close, telesales, they broke down what they say on the phone, why they say it, and, really why they're finding success doing it. So, Dustin, we'll start with you, man. For you, what's the reason why you want to do a one call close versus setting an appointment when you're doing a telesale over the phone?
Yeah, sure. So the reason that I like doing one call close, I'll start off by saying that right now my lead flow is pretty much exclusively final expense leads. So I get a lot of people in that demographic of like 55 and older looking for burial or cremation coverage. And a lot of those people are either not working, retired, disabled, or even if they're working, by the time at the end of the day, they have that 10 or 15 minutes to talk with me right then and there. So I started experimenting with asking them, hey, this is Dustin. I got that form that you had sent in and I'm looking to help you out with that. Do you have about 10 or 15 minutes to talk? And I'll get a better, intro to that for you. But at the end of the day, when you ask them that question, most of them say, yeah, I do have 10 or 15 minutes to talk. And then once you get them going and you get them invested into whatever you're showing them, they won't cut you off. They'll let you go ahead and you want to get them protected and you want to get them protected right then and there.
I love it. Joseph, what's been your experience, shifting from the in-home to shifting to telesales and doing one call close?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is, really just be yourself, just like you are in the in-home. One of the big things that people do when they shift from in-home to telesales is they think that they have to entirely change their presentation and change what they're doing, and it messes them up. And I know that from firsthand experience because that's how I was. If you really just take your what you do in home and just do the same thing on the phone and stay, cool, calm, collected. I mean, it's going to be pretty seamless transition. There will be like a learning curve for sure, but it'll be easier if you just be yourself and do what you do in home on the phone.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I remember the first time I did a telesale, I remember I wanted to use, I think it was Josh Williams, telesales script. It's a great, fantastic script. However, because I had done 2,000 in-homes before I picked up that script, it really didn't flow out of my mouth correct because it was somebody else's script. And I remember Mike just kind of looked at me, Mike Curry, and was like, dude, just do your in-home over the phone. Like, quit overcomplicating it. And Dustin said it earlier this morning. He was like, I kind of imagine myself, I close my eyes and I pretend like I'm across the table from the person. Like, hey, why'd you fill this out? And I just treat them exactly over the phone like I would over a telesale. Because I think the way that you are over the phone, if you're natural and comfortable, that does come through. And I mean, I think we all know that the telesale is a little bit more transactional. And if you're nervous, if your word tracks are off, they feel it. they feel it, and, they're 2 seconds away from hanging up on you at any given moment. So being yourself and, reducing that sales pressure is obviously important. Mel, for you, did you start out doing one call close? Did you start out trying to set appointments? Have you like tested out multiple ways of trying to sell over the phone?
Yeah, so I've tested everything over the phone. It depends on the type of lead.
Yeah.
For FFL Valiant, I'm not part of their team, but I'm kind of part of their team. We're in
Yeah.
the same office,
Sure.
but they have this PDF where it's called the FFL Blueprint for Telesales.
Yeah.
In the event that you're dialing in mortgage leads, it's recommended that you set appointments because most folks are working.
Yeah.
So they probably don't have the long-term memory, the short-term memory to listen to you at that point and have undivided attention to what you have to say. So most of the people are at work. So that's why you schedule an appointment for later in the night.
Mhm.
So the goal is to schedule as much as mortgage protection appointments if you're doing a mix for later in the evening, and then do one call close after your dial session. Let's say your dial session ends at 11. Now from 11 to 12 before lunch, you can do one call close, go to lunch, come back between 1 and 3. You can do one call close. And then let's say your mortgage appointments start at 4. Then you go in and run your mortgage appointments. And then if you get a no-show, then you go ahead and go on call close again. Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
So that's what I've been doing. Yeah.
Okay. I love it. So I'd love if you guys could just share with us a little bit. I'll kind of have you guys go each one at a time, what we shared this morning in regards to, how to, Dustin, I think you went over really the open and a little bit of your script. I'd love if you kind of just dig in and break down for everybody what you say, why you say it, get us up to like the financial inventory.
Okay. Yeah. So when first of all, my dial days are all, like I said, one call close. And like Mel just mentioned, if need be, and you need to set the appointment for later that day, I'll do it. I usually try to push it no later than later that day or early the next day. But my goal, my mindset is when I call them, I already had an appointment with them. Like I'm calling to talk with them now, get them the information as soon as possible and get them protected as soon as possible. So, you want to role play it, Jamie?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So ring, ring.
Hello.
Hey, Jamie.
Yeah, this is Jamie.
Hey, Jamie, this is Dustin. I'm the local field underwriter here in York County, and I just got this form that you had filled out. Looks like you were looking for some kind of final expense, either burial or cremation coverage there. It looks like you put your hobby down as fishing. Your date of birth is January 1st, 1952, and your email address is jamie@gmail.com. Is that all correct?
Yeah, that's all correct. But what was this for again?
This is for the final expense form that you had filled out online. It just came into me. I just received it now, and I just wanted to get to you as quick as I possibly could. It only takes about 10 or 15 minutes to go over this information. Do you have about 10 minutes to talk to me right now?
Yeah, I guess I do.
Okay, perfect. So, and then, that's how I kick it off. And then what I'll do is I'll get into pretty much,
Yeah.
I'll tell them, okay, so
Yeah,
Jamie,
set the table for me.
yeah, so that's how I said it. And then I'll just say, all right, Jamie, if you don't mind, can you go grab a pen and a piece of paper really quick so I can give you all of my personal information? I just want you to know who you're talking with. And if you can receive text messages on your phone as well, I'm also going to send you a photocopy of my state license so you have that for your records. And then I get right into it.
Perfect. You got the pen and paper.
All right. So, and then I'll give them my information. After they confirm they've written it down, I'll say, okay, perfect. So let me just make sure I have everything right here. So your name is spell it out. And you said your birthday is January, so it's 1952. Okay, perfect. Now, are you currently disabled, retired, still working? What does that look like for you?
I'm retired.
Retired? Okay, perfect. That must feel nice. I'm a little jealous of that right now. So, and then, you crack jokes,
Sure.
you kind of humanize it with them a little bit. And then I just get right into it, smoker, non-smoker. And then I'll go into the health questions, figure out what I think they can get, and then explain everything to them in really thorough detail, because you're one call closing them. This is the first time they've ever spoke to you. So you really need to make sure that they understand what they're getting, what it entails, and you want to just be super detailed with everything, because you don't want to hang up that phone and have them forget about everything you said. So you really want to make sure they're clear on every single thing you're talking about. So I'm just very detailed. I don't speak too fast. I don't get too excited. I just speak slow and clear to them and make sure they're fully aware. I'll even stop myself and say, Does all that make sense to you, or do I need to tell you anything over again? No, that all makes sense. Okay, perfect. So, and then
Love it.
proceed.
So let's talk about some of the most common objections that you get on the front end of the phone call. So I think the first three sentences is the most important thing that you got. If you can, we talked about this morning in the training, that if you can get past the first three sentences and you can ask a question and they'll answer it, you're in control. And at that point, if you're in control, the goal is to stay in control, get them to go grab a pen, start the appointment. But a lot of the times clients, they don't want to give you control. They'll say things like, yeah, Dustin, I don't remember filling that out.
Okay, yeah, that is understandable. It might have been something that you saw that caught your eye that you were interested in. And like I said, I'm so busy here that I've been getting to a lot of these forms a few days late, sometimes a week late. So I'll jog your memory. Most people will fill these out. So if they pass away, their family doesn't need to come out of pocket for the, all the financial burden of the funeral costs, cremation costs, burial costs, and things of that nature. Do you think you might have filled it out so maybe your children or your spouse wouldn't have to pay for that out of their own pocket?
Yeah, I think, yeah, maybe that's what I was looking for.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's why most people do it. So what I'll do is I'll explain to you exactly how the programs work and all your different options. Once we come to a point where you feel comfortable and happy with what I've showed you, our next step will be to submit a request to the carrier. Now, this just means that we're going to go ahead and see if we can actually get you approved for the coverage that you decide that you like. So if you decide you like something today, let's submit a request. Usually takes 24 to 72 hours to get an answer back from the carrier in most cases. Very, very rare when it's instantly approved. But if that happens, that's good. But most likely you'll hear from me again in 2 to 3 days, and I'll let you know, congratulations, you've been approved, or let's go and check out some other options that might be available to you.
That's good. Dustin, we actually recently already got that taken care of. You called one day too late.
Oh, okay. That's all right. Well, I'm glad that you found something. But what I generally do is some policy review sessions with people who just recently got something, because if your form came to me, it usually means that you weren't shown all your options or maybe the best available options. So that being said, if you don't mind, what's the carrier that you ended up getting with?
I ended up with XYZ carrier.
Okay, perfect. So what do you know what the total face amount on that was?
Yeah, I think it was like 20,000.
20,000. Okay. And what was your monthly premium for that?
$489 a month.
$489. Okay. So what I can do for you is I can take a look through all of the carriers that I work with, and I work with only A-rated carriers. It's all state regulated. I can definitely take a look for you and see if we can find you a better deal where you're getting the same amount with all or more of the same perks that you might have with XYZ. And maybe we can save you a lot of money monthly, which in the long term is going to add up and really, really save you financially.
Awesome. Love it. Okay. Let's talk about the financial inventory. So Joseph, let's have you talk about what is a financial inventory? Why do we use a financial inventory? What type of information are you gathering on it? And why are you gathering it?
Yeah, so the financial inventory, you can go. So where I go to print it out is fflamerica.com. And then I believe it's under downloads. And then you click on financial inventory or carrier credibility sheets. You won't really need the credibility sheet unless you're doing in-home. Just print out the financial inventory. It's just a list of questions that you ask the client to figure out which carriers can be best and like exactly diagnose what they need, how much they need, and which carrier to go with. So it's got questions, like, have you had a heart attack, stroke, cancer, diabetes, neuropathy, all of the like major health conditions that are kickers for some carriers. And then, just the regular questions, smoker, non-smoker, age, occupation, medications, all that stuff, just to help you diagnose and figure out which, carrier you need to go with. And then at the bottom, a lot of people overlook this, but at the bottom, there's a beneficiary section. Always make sure you ask, or, some leads will have a beneficiary on it, but always make sure you figure out which beneficiary or what the name of the beneficiary that they want, because then if you get any kickback further down the presentation, you can name drop that and use that as ammunition. Like if they're saying like, I'm just not sure if I want to take care of this today. And you can say, well, you told me earlier that you wanted to make sure that Nehemiah was taken care of if something were to happen to you. are you saying like, you don't want to do that now? Or is it, is it because you don't trust me, or is it too much? And then, like you name drop the beneficiary to, pull them back.
Absolutely. In the financial inventory, I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make is they see it and they see the section about medications. And that's what most people get so caught up on, is who would they get approved for? Who would they get approved for is probably the easiest part that we have. We have underwriting genie, we have managers that can help you figure out what product to write. Because we're brokers, we can literally get anybody approved with something. We have something available for 99.9% of the population. I've definitely encountered the 0.01 where you can't get them any coverage, and it's really sad, but it's very, very, very rare that we can't get something for somebody. So the part that I think people skip over is we have the financial part of it. And the goal is to find out their medical conditions and the financial situation for whoever the surviving beneficiary is. So if I find out, Dustin's my client, and I find out that he makes $3,000 a month, I find out ballpark what he has going out. He's got 2,000 going out, and he's got 1,000 left over. That's where most people stop. Most people stop is, can he afford the life insurance? Yeah, he's got 1,000 left over. You can probably afford it. Okay, but hey, Dustin, your son, you said you wanted to take care of your burial. Yeah, I want to take care of burial. So could your son, could he come out of pocket $10,000, or would that be something that would kind of financially break him? Oh no, that would totally financially break him. Okay, I understand. And is he local? Does he live right here in North Carolina, or where does he? No, he lives in California. Oh, he lives in California. So if you passed away, he'd have to travel in, correct? And you probably, you live in a house or an apartment house. How long have you been living there? 30 years. Oh, okay. So he definitely would have to spend some time getting it cleaned up, cleaned out, listed, and sold, correct? Yes. Okay. So all those things that I just did right there, I'm finding out what's going to be the situation of the beneficiary when Dustin passes away. Dustin passes away. Son can't come out of pocket 10,000. Son probably has a house and bills of his own. Son has a job. Son needs to travel across the country. Son needs to get the place cleaned up, cleaned out, listed, and sold. That's all ways that you can build value. I'm finding problems. I think that's the big thing that I look at for the financial inventory. It's not just what can they get approved for, but what problem am I going to be able to solve? And you can do that based off the financial inventory. So whether you're doing telesales or at home, it's the exact same thing. Sitting down with Bob and Mary, Bob makes 4,000, Mary makes 2,000. What is Mary's situation going to be if Bob dies? A $4,000 income loss. Can she afford that mortgage? Can she afford the car payment? Can she afford the bills? Mary dies. Bob still makes $4,000 a month. He can afford the bills, but they have, Jimmy and Susie, children that he now needs to get childcare for, because he needs to continue to work to make the bills, because he lost 2,000 a month and lost his wife, took care of the kids. So the goal is to find the medical conditions and the financial situation of whoever that person is, and then to restate back to the client what you found. We talk about being the doctor, putting on the white lab coat, and hey, I figured out what your symptoms are. You've told me your symptoms. Now I'm going to give you the prognosis. I'm going to give you the diagnosis. I'm going to give you my prescribed solution. Hey, so Bob, Mary, if I'm reading this correctly, what I'm seeing is that if Bob passes away, there's a $4,000 income loss. Is that right? Yes. Okay, so that's why we're here. Hey, Dustin, I'm seeing right here that if you pass away, that your son's going to have to do X, Y, Z. He's not going to be able to come out of pocket. You really want to be buried. You're going to have to be cremated, and your house is going to go to foreclosure, probably probate, get sold off, and your son's going to lose all the equity. Does that sound about right? That sounds about right. Okay, so that's why we're here. So it's like you use that financial inventory to kind of drive the problem a little bit deeper. Okay, so now kind of transitioning out of the financial inventory. So now you've used the financial inventory, Mel. You have figured out why they need the coverage, and you've shown them on paper, not just they told you emotionally why they think they need it. You've logically explained to them on paper why they need it. How do you transition into actually showing them a solution?
Yeah, one of the things that I wanted to point out in the financial inventory, once you agree on a face amount, you don't talk price there yet.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say it's Bob, right? And he's looking for some traditional burial. Before I dive into that, I ask him a few power questions to identify the type of buyer that I'm dealing with. Am I dealing with an accommodator? Am I dealing with an assertive person? Am I dealing with an analytical person, right? The shoppers per se, right? So I asked them, hey, is this the first time that you're looking to life insurance final expense? Or are you looking to fill in the gap with something that you already have and something that you need to fill in the gap for burial? Or are you just looking to leave a legacy behind for somebody, or have a big bill or big debt paid off? And obviously they'll tell me. And if they tell me, hey, you're some traditional burial and number one and number two being leaving a legacy behind. Okay, perfect. So you're just looking for like right around 15,000 for the burial, I'm assuming, and then your daughter who lives in California, she's got to travel, so just like a couple thousand, so she can get that taken care of, the flight, and then cover 1 month or a couple months of their of her monthly income, correct? Yeah, okay. So let me see what's the max coverage you can get for one policy, and then most of my clients, what they do is that they check what the maximum they can afford, and not the maximum coverage, and then they can see if they can afford it. If they can't afford it, then we would just go down from there or adjust. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. So let me check real quick. So I just go ahead and I use insurance toolkits.
Mhm.
I basically type in their health information there. And while I'm doing that, I get them serious. How do you get a prospect serious and become a client? I talk to them about death. Hey, who in your family, if we're talking to Bob, who in your family on the male side passed away recently and lived the longest? And kind of throws them off like, oh, nobody's ever asked me that question before.
Yeah.
Okay. My uncle. Okay. How old was he? 86. Oh, and you're 66? Right. I'm not God. I'm not, projecting when they're going to die, but, DNA, right? And they're going to be like, okay, perfect. And then I'll just go ahead and fill out the medical information and come back. Insurance toolkit will give me a couple carriers. And then based on the data that I get, I'll go ahead and quote them the carrier that I think will provide the best solution.
Mhm. So let's just pretend, you're gonna quote me, $20,000 Americo Eagle. Now,
Mhm.
how do you, so again, you mentioned, I want to talk about the face amount and the benefits before I talk about the price.
That's right.
I think that a big mistake that people make is they go, okay, 20,000, it's gonna be $150 a month, and they don't build up any value to it.
Hmm.
So how do you build up value? How do you tell, because what is 20,000 gonna do? Like,
Yeah.
that's the real question. What is 20,000 gonna do for me and my family? Not what does 20,000 cost? What's it gonna do?
Right. So let's say 20,000 is the max, right?
Mhm.
All right. So Jamie, go ahead and grab your pen and paper again.
Okay,
Let me know when you're ready.
got it.
Okay. So what I want you to write right now is $20,000.
Okay, 20,000.
All right. $20,000 death benefit. Make sure you write death benefit.
Okay,
Okay.
20,000 death benefit.
Right. This is a whole life policy. It's permanent coverage. It never expires. Okay. What that means is it will be with you through the rest of your life. It's not like this type of insurance that they do commercials like, XYC and XYC, right? And that increases every 5 years. And at the end of the day, they expire at 85 and they call themselves whole life policies, whole life companies, which they're not. So I'm a broker with the state, and I only deal with companies who've been in business over 100 years. They're worth multi-billions of dollars, and they've been in business regardless of the economic cycle. They're well known for paying proceeds, doing what they're going to say they're going to do. So $20,000 death benefit. And then at the end of the day, when you die, your wife doesn't have to pay any probate or court. She doesn't have to wait or anything. She just calls me directly because I have a connection with the accounting department. So I just call them directly so you can get your proceeds no more than 30 days. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. And now you have the option to add accidental to these policies or not add it. It just depends if you see the value or not. So I had a client named Bertha back in December, and she was taking the Christmas lights off for December 27th, and unfortunately she fell and she hit the back of her head, the cerebellum, and there was blood all over the floor. And unfortunately, she died, but she didn't die at that moment. She died 3 weeks later at the hospital, but because the cause of death was the accident, her husband was able to get $150,000. She had a $75,000 policy. You see
Crazy.
where's the value with accidental?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you two monthly premiums, one with accidental and one without. Okay,
Mhm.
so write down $20,000 death benefit, $20,000 with accidental. That is $150 a month.
Mhm.
Now without accidental, that's $139.
Okay.
Okay, is that something that you can afford each month? Can you maintain that, or we got to adjust a little bit?
I mean, I could probably make that happen. It's kind of,
Mhm.
it's kind of getting close to the top end of my budget, but I might be able to make it work.
Okay. When you say you might, you think you might be able to make it work for 2 months, 3 months, because this is something that is got to be maintained month after month after month. Like when the budget gets tight and you run into a financial situation, are you gonna be able to afford this, or should we decide between YouTube subscription and then the life insurance? Is this
Yeah.
something that you can afford, or should we just adjust a little
We
bit?
should probably adjust a little bit.
Okay. So what I would recommend what we do is just go ahead with the basic first. Once your income increases over time, or you get some help from your children or somebody else, you can increase it to the 20,000. The carrier actually gives you 30 days to think about this while being insured, adjust it up or down, make any changes that you want. But let's go ahead and write down 15,000, okay?
Okay, 15,000.
All right, so 15,000, same benefits, whole life, never expires, avoids probate court, and at the end of the day, it pays out. This is day one coverage if you qualify for this.
Yeah.
So 15,000 with accidental is 100,
Okay.
and then 15,000 without accidental is 83, about 83 per month.
Okay.
Yeah,
I could
which
try-
one
try- Try with accidental.
with accidental?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So the application takes about 10 minutes. Go ahead and grab your driver's license or state ID.
Okay. Why do you need my driver's license?
Yeah, so basically, just like I said at the beginning, and I usually set the expectation from the
Yeah.
get-go. Yeah, they need your driver's license just to make sure that you're not running from the police and you're not an alien. Hopefully, you're a human being, that does the good thing. So hopefully, you got your driver's license or state ID, but yeah, what's your driver's license?
Yeah, and I got it.
Okay, go ahead, give me the number.
C58936.
Okay, expiration date.
It looks like it's gonna be August of 2028.
Okay, perfect. Now, and then we go through it, right? And then do you have a middle name?
I do have a middle name,
Okay, what's your middle name?
Michael.
Michael, okay, perfect. All right, Michael. Are you a junior, senior, or the third?
I am a one and only.
One and only? Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha, perfect. All right, and then the best phone number is the number we got on file?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Let me put that right here. Da-da-da. All right, perfect. All right, and then what's the social?
123 345 89.
Okay, are you originally from Alabama?
Yeah, I am originally from Alabama.
Oh, amen. Okay,
Yeah.
good. All right, let me write that down here. Okay, perfect. All right, and then I continue asking the medical questions from the app, and I just go there.
Okay,
Yeah.
so now let's pretend I said, well, why do you need my social?
Well, like I said, for the medical records, they check your prescription. So they waive all of this. They waive a doctor coming to your house and bothering you while you're at work. They waive a nurse coming to your house. They waive a paramedic coming to your house. You see how many people got to come to your house in order for you to do it medical if you don't want to give out your social, and that's fine. If you want to do that, we can do that. That's fine. We just take 3 months to do it, and perhaps you die, and then we didn't do what we're supposed to get done today. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
123 345 6 7 8 9.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Then answer the medical questions, and then once we get to the financial information or financial institution, yeah.
I love it. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you did a really good job there, man. I really appreciate you sharing that. Tips and tricks for new agents jumping on the phone for the first time, from a discipline perspective. We'll go to Joseph here. How do you sit in your chair for 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, and not go crazy? Because for me, that was the hard part. Like, what are you thinking about? Like, what are the things that keep you motivated to sit there and stay in the chair? And is it just like, I want to get better, I want to protect my family, or I want to help my family, my future family, my financial future? Like, how can somebody develop that, stick-to-itiveness of, sitting in a chair and dialing 6 days a week if they really want to get good at this?
So I think one of the biggest things is I just had my first death claim a week ago, and it was a 37-year-old client that I wrote a policy for. That was the last person I expected to be my first death claim. So when you get your first death claim, like, it just really, everything that you're doing really hits home, and it just makes you want to protect and serve people that much more. And Dustin had a similar experience where he door knocked somebody that he had the lead for 2 weeks, and he door knocked somebody and found out they had died while he actually had the lead. He just never got a hold of them. So when you realize that leads are not just leads for you to make sales from, they're actual people who are looking for this information. And if you're, you could be one day late on getting it to them, that could change the course of people's lives. Like, it's very important what we do. It's not just a paycheck. When you realize the urgency of what we actually do, it makes it more real. And then, I wouldn't recommend sitting in your chair for 8 hours straight, but you can get up and walk around a little bit, but
Yeah, fair enough. Dustin, you're somebody who you've increased your production probably 3-4 fold in the last couple of weeks. For you, you talked about how the biggest difference was you weren't working as hard a month ago as you are now. What was that shift?
Yeah, so I also did have a death claim. I went to Maine for a month and visited family, and I did work while I was there and everything. But at the very end of the trip, I got my first death claim. It was from Americo, and this was actually when I was still doing. This was from an appointment that was an in-home appointment. So this is before I was even doing telesales. So I actually met the lady, and I was in the house with her and her husband for over 2 hours. Super nice people, very sweet. I actually kept in very close touch with her, oddly enough, for like consistently, because she had a poetry book and I went and bought it and we would talk about it and she would text me. So after she passed away, it was so like bittersweet because it was I felt so sad about it and then I realized, well, you know what? I protected that family and I put a paycheck into her husband's hands that is going to help him with the costs of the funeral, the burial. And it was just one of those feelings like, wow, this, like Joseph just said, it's just so real. And it makes the job feel like, man, this is so important to make sure that you stay on top of, because there's people that are out there that need your help. They need this coverage and they want the coverage, and you're going to have to get through a lot of people that are going to tell you no before you get to that yes. But once you get to that yes, it makes all those no's worth it and they disappear. And me, Jamie, you said 8 hours. To be honest, I do about 12 a day, honestly. And that's how my production went up so much, because I'll start dialing about eight in the morning and I won't stop till 8 or 9 at night. And I just dial straight through. And this call is about one call closes. And that's what I've been doing, because the urgency of making sure these people are covered just went up so much for me. And I just make them understand how important it really is to them and paint the picture for what it would look like for their family after they pass away. So, I mean, I'm dialing nonstop. Like I'll eat lunch while I'm dialing still. And it just, my volume went up because I'm just working harder. I'm not doing anything special. I don't have any secret sauce. I test out different leads. If they don't work, I try new ones. I still buy internet leads, instant with beneficiaries, Facebook, final expense, 1 month mailers, 2 month, 3 month mailers. But at the end of the day, the only thing I really changed is I'm working a lot harder. I'm staying a lot more consistent and my activity is just way high. And like, you have to just tell yourself that this is not about you. Stop being selfish. It's not about you. It's about protecting families. The money is a complete byproduct of it. It's just it's just the point of I increased my activity and I just had a bigger why.
I love it. I love it. So, hey, here's what we're actually going to do, guys. We still have a few minutes left. So I want to have anybody drop any telesales questions that they have into the comments. I'll ask these guys a couple more questions as we're waiting. Hopefully I got permission to do a Q&A. We're doing it anyways. Ask for forgiveness and not permission. But Mel, what would be some pieces of advice you'd give somebody who is trying to make the transition from the in-home to telesales?
Yeah, just do it. That's
Just-
it. I can
just do it.
summarize almost every book that I've read. Just do it.
Okay.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, if you read another book, if you watch another video and another video and another video, there's a video of a lion that I watched one time. There's the female lion and the lion. So the female lion was sitting down there and she was looking at the praise pass by. Oh, maybe the next time. Oh, maybe the next time. Maybe the next time. And bam, comes the lion and boom, and guessed it. So just be like a lion with force. Go ahead and take it. And then you adjust from there. You learn as you go.
I love it. Quick question from the audience. What do you say if a client says, I don't have the time right now to talk?
Yeah, I don't have the time either, but it just takes about 10 minutes. Do you have the time right now, about 10 minutes, or you're driving, or I can call you back later in the day?
I'm driving right now.
At what time do you get off, or you think you'll definitely be home so I can call you back so you can pick up the phone and we can get this taken care of?
I would probably definitely be home maybe an hour.
Maybe an hour. Okay. I don't have any time slots available for an hour. Are you going to be available around an hour and a half or 2 hours?
Yeah, I'd probably be available in an hour and a half.
An hour and a half. Okay. So I'll call you between an hour and a half and 2 hours. Just give me like a 30-minute grace so I can make sure that I get to you, because I have other clients as well.
Okay. So you guys, it's like, oh, you're busy? I'm busier. It's like, hey, I'm busier, but I'm going to do you a favor and I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to squeeze you in between my 5:30 and my 6. I don't have, hey, you have time in an hour? I don't have time in an hour anymore. It's like, hey, do you have time right now? No. Okay, perfect. Well, when do you have time? 5. Well, sorry, I don't have time at 5 anymore. I got 5:30 or 6 though, but I'll do you a favor and I'll squeeze you in there. Does that work? Yeah, that works. So that's good. What are the 3 main objections and that you guys get on the phone? And how would you overcome them?
Well, I would say naturally, when you're trying to get the sensitive information like the social security number and the bank account, I build up enough rapport and I stay as relaxed and calm and cool and genuine as possible with them on the phone to the point when I get to the social security number. If I forgot to, mention that I would need it in the beginning, say, I will let them know. I'll say, okay, so we're at the point in the application now where we're going to need to do a HIPAA authorization for you, which is just a prescription check. And that's going to require a social. If you can, please say it as clear as possible to me. I'm going to repeat it back to you before I enter it in to make sure I have it right. This is so important because we want to make sure that nobody's fraudulently trying to pull insurance in your name. And also, if you were to pass away, that benefit is going to go to the correct child or the correct spouse. So this is how they just verify the identity for you. And then also when I get to the bank account, I kind of correlate the two. So when I get to the bank account, I'll say, okay, and we made it all the way through. Good chance it looks like you might be approved, but we still have to, finish the application and then, wait a couple of days before I can confirm that with you. But before we submit the application, the carrier is going to need a financial institution on file for that $78 payment per month. It's totally up to you what you want to use, as long as you have a good routing and account number. Just like your social, please just say it very clear for me. I'm going to repeat it back to you because after I enter it in, it's going to disappear. And once we submit, that's going to be locked in. Okay. So you see how I correlate the two there. So like, they're like, oh yeah, I did already give them my social. So I trusted them enough for that, might as well finish the application. Right. So,
Yeah, 100%.
at the end of the day, that's kind of how I approach it. If I don't say it in the beginning, which, I'll let Joseph explain that part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I always try to do that in the beginning, like Dustin was saying, because if you overcome that objection in the beginning, because when you're going through a sale and you don't mention that up front, in the back of your head, you're just thinking like, oh, when I get to the social, or oh, when I get to the bank account, you're just like waiting for an objection to happen and waiting to have to overcome it. So instead of like dreading getting to those questions, I address it up front. So I'll run through the financial inventory first, diagnose everything, pull out the why. And then after I pull out the why and get them to restate why they filled it out, then I say, okay, so there's 3 things you're going to need. So I've already got them invested in the conversation and they know why why they're needing this. Then I'll say, okay, so number 1 is a driver's license. That's just to make sure that you're not, running from the cops. I'm assuming that's not you, right? Then they usually laugh like, no, that's not me. Okay. And then the second thing is going to be a social. And that's just like Mel was saying, that's just to bypass, them sending a doctor or nurse out to the house. And, that's how they do the prescription check and determine eligibility. And then the last thing they'll need, we don't need it right now, but at the very end, they're going to ask for a financial institution. And that's just a regular bank account or a credit union account and routing number on file. And that's for 2 reasons. Number 1, to make sure that the person getting the insurance is the same person paying for it and that there's no fraud going on. And number 2, just to make sure, that you actually do have a way to pay for it. Does that make sense? And then they say yes, then you just overcame the two major objections that you normally get.
Love it. I just had a question that popped up in the chat and it kind of scrolled away. So I'll do my best to remember what it was. It was something along the lines of, I have a upline and a mentor that only wants me to do in-home, doesn't want me to do telesales. Telesales seems like something that's a little bit more natural for me. What would be your advice for somebody who is trying to transition from in-home to telesales? And, I'll just say this, I still love the in-home. I still will tell people if they can go to the in-home, it's still a great way to learn, but telesales is not something to be afraid of. And it's something that can be learned. But if you're going to learn it, you have to get so uncomfortable, find a way to get around people that are doing it. If you're going to do it, why suffer in silence trying to figure it out? Why teach yourself? That makes no sense. Why not just avoid every single mistake and learn from mentors along the way and speed up your learning curve? I remember and do it in a condensed period of time. Like, are you going to run 100 appointments in your first month, or are you going to run 100 appointments in your first 6 months? The person who does 100 appointments in 6 months is going to be so far behind the person who does 100 appointments in their first month. It's crazy. So my perspective is there's nothing wrong with doing telesales, but you have to be ready to go to work. You have to be ready to do the dials. You can get lucky on an in-home and just show up and someone's got a check taped to their forehead. They want the insurance. They let you come over. Those things happen. You can also have people that want you, nothing to do with it. No reason why you're there. When it comes to the telesale, your word tracks need to be on point. You have to study your word tracks, practice your script, do it over and over and over again. It takes discipline. You can't just walk in and kind of mess your way through it like you can in the home sometimes and just find your way through a sale by just showing them options and telling them to pick one and pointing at the paper. There's some strategy to it over the phone. You just have to be willing to be a student of the game. So if you're willing to be a student of the game, this can be learned very fast. If you're not willing to be a student of the game, then you shouldn't be in insurance, let alone trying to decide if you're doing in-home or telesales. I mean, that shouldn't be the question. If you're not willing to be a student of the game and do the work, you just shouldn't be doing this at all. So thank you guys so much for coming in. We appreciate you. Everybody out there, have an amazing day. Let's win today. Be a student of the game. That's my challenge for you. Everybody have an awesome one. We'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys.